talking to it?
Hello, this is Mitch.
Ugh.
At work?
Golden.
Okay.
Thank you. Mitch
Okay.
Albom, bless you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
This book was great. I kind of relate to the story in a special way because I sure did have a heart for that beautiful Chica that you wrote about finding here. So let's start with well, first of all, for anybody who's just tuning in, if you're watching on video, watching on Facebook Live, bless you, thank you. And if you're listening right now, what I need you to know is that 100% of the proceeds for the sale of Mitch Albom's new book, Finding Chica, 100% of the proceeds go to benefit the mission where this beautiful girl that we're going to be sharing about came from. It's your mission in Haiti, finding faith. Now let's talk about Have Faith Haiti Orphanage. How did you become involved with them? Why? So many choices.
Yeah, it's mostly an accident. Like a lot of things in my life have been.
Mitch
Or you may argue that there's no accident.
Let's go there. We already know that, right? Don't we already know that?
So, okay, so let's say it was not an accident.
Let's go with that.
But at the time it felt like an accident. And that was that I went down to Haiti after the earthquake at the request of a pastor who had come to me and said that he had this orphanage and he thought it had been destroyed, but he couldn't get a phone call through. There was no phone service in the aftermath of the earthquake. And something about that image of children being, trapped or maybe dead under rubble and nobody looking for them because, he was up here, just couldn't get out of my head. And so I organized this small plane. It was just a little plane. And we got some help from a local senator here who opened a window for us to fly into Haiti because there was no commercial airlines. And we had a 10-minute window to land from Detroit to there. We had to get it exactly within these 10 minutes. Oof. We landed and...
okay, already that's God, right?
Yeah. And what I saw there was it just would never leave anybody's mind, I'm sure. I mean, it was the hell on earth. And, people, corpses and people walking around covered in dust and missing arms and legs and bleeding in the street and cowering for any kind of water or any kind of food or getting little cups and putting it in puddles in the whatever rainwater whatever had run down the street and trying to get that and drink that. So it was just pandemonium. And the orphanage had not been destroyed but had been overrun, and there were all kinds of people there who didn't belong there, hoping that someone would bring food or water, and so people were begging and sleeping on the ground, and the kids were mixed in. And it just didn't leave my mind, and so I went back to Detroit after that trip, and I organized a trip of plumbers and roofers and contractors and people like that,
Got together, the people of Detroit, to make it happen.
Well, we do things with our hands here, and so they came
and hearts, right?
Yeah, but a lot of people have hearts. It seems like Detroit has the hand.
Wow, ain't that the truth?
And so they came down, they started returning, and we built the first toilets and the first showers and the first kitchen and the first dining room that this place really ever had. And we built a schoolhouse as well with the help of Haitian laborers. And meanwhile, while I kept going there every month, I noticed that the kids were still kind of living in abject poverty. They weren't eating and everything. So I went to the pastor. I said, I don't understand. We're sinking a lot of time, money, effort into this. And that's when he admitted to me that he didn't have the funds to operate this place and hadn't had them in a long time. And in one of those moments where, you just go, you look back on it and you say, I don't know what I was thinking. I said, well, I could probably operate this. I operate charities in Detroit. It's probably not that different. And basically, in a blink of an eye, that was mine. And,
isn't it good you didn't know?
Yeah.
You would have never been able to just go, whatever, let's just go do this.
Yeah.
Like, yes, how awesome.
And I've been operating it ever since. I'm there every month. I have been for 10 years. And we have now 52 children that we raised. 46 of those kids I have admitted since I took it over. 6 are in there from before.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful place. And Chica came to us about 3 years into that process and, sort of changed our lives as a result of it.
Mitch Albom is joining me right now. We're talking about his new book, Finding Chica. He's Mitch Albom, so you can find it everywhere. Sometimes you have to say where you can find the book, but you are 7 times now, is that right, New York best-selling author? So this one's coming around the corner for number 8, or has it already busted the charts?
It's already on
Yeah.
the New York Times list.
I'm not surprised. This is, Mitch, honestly, like, I loved Tuesdays with Maurier, and this book right here, it's my favorite sentence, okay? I want to talk to you a lot about Chica, but don't let me leave our time together without mentioning to you a first phone call from heaven story, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, you meet Chica. You see that Chica has a need, a specific need. She's got a medical need. She's got cancer, and it's huge.
Well, that didn't happen from the start. So Chica's story paralleled mine. Interestingly, you know, we were only a few weeks apart from Haiti. She was born 3 days before the earthquake and survived the earthquake.
Yes.
Survived the earthquake miraculously. She was inside a cinder block house, and normally when that happens, you know, you die.
Sure.
But it crumbled around her, and her mother managed to escape. And
Yes.
and she lived with her mother for a couple more years, and then her mother died giving birth to a baby brother inside that same rebuilt cinder block house that they had put back together again. She died because there was no doctor present, and there's frequently no doctor present in births in Haiti because most of the women are poor and they're out in the provinces, and they can't have access to a hospital. They don't have money. There isn't one. And so there's a lot of deaths during childbirth, way more than there should be. And Chica's mother died, and the baby was born in the same hour. And Chica was taken away by a godmother who lived with her for a short bit, and then she brought her to us. And when Chica came to us, she was barely 3 years old. And at the time, she was this funny, brash, loud kid. She was really bossy. She was very curious. She told all the other kids when they could eat, who could stand in line, who could go here, where, and other. And, you know, we just sort of took her as, well, that's bossy Chica. She's funny, and everybody kind of delights in her. She was the youngest one, so she kind of led the way.
She really was very special.
Yeah.
Like, she had a lot of unique characteristics that seemed like really just her own. Like, Mitch, her boundaries. When have you met a 5-year-old who would say, like, you're not allowed to touch me, I'm only allowed to touch you?
Well, she said a lot of things by the time she was 5. She was saying them when she was 3. But at 5, that's when her world changed and our world changed, because we noticed that her face was drooping, and we took her to our doctor, and our doctor gave her eye drops, which is kind of gives you an idea of the state of Haitian medicine. Eventually, we found a neurologist. Eventually, he ordered an MRI. There's only one MRI machine in Haiti at the time.
Wow.
You had to wait online for 6 hours, 7 hours. You had to bring cash to pay for it, $750. And when they took the MRI and I got the report back, it was a very simple conclusion. They said this child has a mass on her brain in the Pons area, and whatever it is, there's no one in Haiti who can help her. That was it. So we didn't know what it was, and we scrambled to get her. We had to get her a birth certificate, a passport, paperwork, try to get her out of the country.
Every one of those things is a miracle that you were able to do that.
Yeah.
Because there are millions of people in Haiti who could never push that paperwork if their life depended on it, and it often did.
That's right.
So I'm just looking at miracle stacked on top of miracle in this situation.
Yeah, her whole life was a series of that kind of thing.
If you wouldn't have been there, that would have been the end of the line.
Yeah, she would have died shortly thereafter. When we brought her to America, we didn't know what it was, and we got the nice people at the University of Michigan, Mott Children's Hospital, agreed to do brain surgery on her, exploratory brain surgery. And we came in and, for the consultation, hopeful that it would be what they call a stage 1 tumor, which really isn't that bad. And we were wary maybe it would be a stage 2, in which case they would need to do some radiation and she'd have to stay for a while longer. But we were always thinking a couple months, few months, however many months, she'll be back in Haiti with her brothers and sisters.
Right.
And then we walked into that consultation room and everything changed because the doctor sighed and then he said, I have bad news. This is something called DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. It's a tumor in the pons, so we can't take it out because it's totally intermingled with everything else in the brain. And I said, well, is it a stage 1 or stage 2? And he said, it's a stage 4. And he said, it's always fatal. There's no cure. There's no medicine. What do you want to do? And so suddenly, we go from starting this meeting, when I say we, I mean my wife Janine and I, we go from starting this meeting thinking, all right, let's find out how long she's going to be here.
Yeah.
To minutes later being told she could die on your watch. What do you want to do?
Wow.
What do you want to do? I said, what do we want to do? Like, we don't even know. So of course I did what most people end up doing, kind of chickening out in that situation. You say to the doctor, well, what would you do?
Sure, it's a fair question, right?
And he said, I would take her back to Haiti, let her play with her friends for, a few weeks or months, and then this will debilitate her very quickly and she'll die. And, normally I would listen to a doctor because I'm respectful of doctors and what they know. But in this particular case, I thought about everything she'd already been through and surviving an earthquake. She slept out in the sugarcane fields when she was 3 days old. She was sleeping in the dirt in a bed of leaves.
Yeah.
She was 3 days. Imagine how small she was. And she survived that, and she survived her mother dying, and she survived the trip up and all that. So I said, no.
Good, yes.
We're not taking her back to die.
Right on.
We're going to fight. And if she's going to fight, we're going to fight.
This whole book is that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Page after page.
Yeah, it's the story of our 2-year. She lived 2 years instead of 4 months.
Yes.
They were 2 amazing years.
2 glorious years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And around every corner, yet another hurdle.
Yeah.
Around every corner, it seems to me, in this book, this brand new book, Finding Chica by Mitch Albom, it seems to me around every corner that you and your beautiful bride looked obediently. God, what are we supposed to do? Doctors, what is our wisest choice? And you consulted with one another.
Yeah.
And you made the best choices that you could make. And every one of them seemed to lead to the hurdle that you didn't want and the outcome that you were not hoping for.
Yes, ultimately. But along the way, you go searching for one thing, which was a cure. Sometimes you find something else, which for us was a family. And so, those 2 years enabled us to become a family in a way that my wife and I had never had the opportunity. We didn't have kids of our own. We had 15 nieces and nephews, and I think we were pretty good uncles and aunts, and they we have a great relationship with our nieces and nephews, but as I write in the book, that means you give out presents on Christmas Eve, but on Christmas morning your house is empty, and that was always the case. And suddenly we had this little 5-year-old girl sleeping at the base of our bed in our bedroom.
Yeah.
Now, we were in our late 50s already when this happened. So suddenly, after 30 years of being together, just the 2 of us, now it's 3 of us. 3 of us doing everything. And of course, she didn't go to school, so she was with us the whole time.
Which I love that. Yeah. And you talk with her about that.
Yeah.
How it's 3 of us, 3 pairs of shoes.
Right.
3 seats at the table.
Right, 3 seats everywhere.
Yeah.
3 people going to bed, which, we used to go to bed late and watch TV and fall asleep, and now all of a sudden the lights are off at 8 o'clock, and we're singing her a lullaby, and she has to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and all that kind of stuff. So we got the wonderful, amazing, God-given experience of being a family. Even for a limited period of time, even for those 2 years, but it was an intense 2 years because you're not only an instant family, you also are trying to save a child's life.
Right.
And so every day is precious, every hour is precious. You're constantly aware that something could happen tomorrow, that this could be the last time. And every night before we took her to a surgery, every night before she had to start a radiation program, every trip before we put her into an MRI machine or she got some drug or this or that, they said, we don't know what the effect is. Yeah. Every time you're saying, okay, please, God, let's make sure she gets through this. Don't let this be the last time we can talk to her, last time we can see her or speak to her or play with her. And each time that she came out, you're so grateful. That's still her. It's still Chica making jokes and being funny and bossy. And so it was an intense 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Mitch, how much time do we have? Because I have a lot more questions for you.
I've got another 25 minutes.
Thank you. So we're talking about this little Chica from Mitch's new book, Finding Chica. And there's this theme in there that I detected about the stooping down, about the small places.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had mentioned that Chica was sleeping at the foot of your bed,
Right.
you know, or even the fact that you, I feel early in the book, learned that to communicate with Chica, you had to get down to her eye level.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Or when she was under your desk looking for fairy doors.
Right.
You know? Or when she couldn't get up and play anymore, she kind of brought her whole entire situation down.
Down to the floor.
And you all came down with
Right.
her.
Well, that's what children do for adults. You know, they bring adults down to their level. They remind them of the worms and the pebbles and the frogs that are in the grass and all the wonder and amazement of life down there on the ground. And
Right.
you know, Chica was so full of wonder. Everything was an amazement to her. Of course, she was a poor Haitian kid who came to America. Everything she saw, from the highway when she got out, you know, to lights, to traffic lights, to squirrels on trees, to she used to count mailboxes. She was so fascinated by mail. We'd be in the car. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mailboxes. You know, once we should learn what they were, she would yell if she saw a squirrel in the tree. She said, "Squirrel, squirrel!" I'd say, "Yeah, that's a squirrel." "Can the squirrel see me?" "I don't know if the squirrel can see me." "Can the squirrel hear me?" "I don't know if the squirrel can hear me." So even hot water, you know, when she first landed in America, we don't have hot water in Haiti. Most people don't because you don't have a hot water heater.
Running water even.
Running
Clean
water.
water.
So just the water comes out of the sink. It's whatever the temperature is. So she happened to go in and she turned the left faucet, and hot water came. She put her hands in. She yanked it back. You know, like hot water. Where'd that come from? So everything was a miracle to her. Snow was a miracle. Sledding was a miracle.
You know. Although she didn't seem to love the cold as much, and I kind of feel her pain in that way.
Yeah, well, she was from Haiti.
Yes.
But she was okay with it. She liked playing in the snow. We took her to Disneyland, and she was one time, and she was just, I was very proud of her because, you know, I was thinking, okay, you take a kid to Disneyland, never been there before, they're going to see all these rides, they're going to want to go. I want to go on that one, I want to go on that one, I want to go on that one. And we walked in, we got to that section where all the parks are in front of you, and there was Space Mountain to the right, and there was Sleeping Beauty's castle in front of us, and Haunted Mansion to the left. All these amazing multi-billion-dollar whatever, you know, rides. And a little duck came out of a pond that was nearby and walked in front of us, and Chica goes, "Mr. Mitch, a duck!"
Aww.
And she started running around chasing the duck, and you know, with all this $1 million amusements around her, she just wanted to play with the duck, which I thought was kind of sweet.
And we can learn so much from that, can't we?
Yeah.
From her and how to be more like that. And also, Mitch, I honestly feel from what you shared here, from the character of our Heavenly Father toward us, you know, the way that He stoops down to us and wants us to delight in what He gave us, you know. I just absolutely love that. And I love how you share there's a phrase in here that says something like a child is both an anchor and wings.
An anchor and a set of wings, yeah.
And that what was normal for you was forever changed.
Right.
So that's a beautiful just image and profound truth.
Well, you know, you think your time, especially when you get to your 50s, you think you
That's not old. Let's go with that.
Well, I didn't say it was old.
Not at all. It's very young.
But you've been around, and you start to feel
a
that,
little.
you know, my time is so well organized, and I've got it laid out, and there's no more room for anything new, because you're sort of set in your ways by your 50s. You got your routines, places you go, your friends, your social life, your work, all that. And then all of a sudden, here comes this hurricane, 5-year-old hurricane, and everything has to move. Everything has to move. And, you know, in the book where that passage, I wrote about eating breakfast with her for the first time.
Yes.
And she took an hour,
yes,
you know, to chew everything, because she would put the fork down and look around and ask about the squirrels again, and then she'd pick the fork up and she'd take a little bite, and then she'd put it down and she'd chew and she'd look around, she'd bounce back and forth. And I said, an hour? I don't even eat breakfast. And here there's an hour now that we're going to have to get used to of this. So your time no longer is your own with a child, and that's whether you have a child in your 20s or you get married young, or suddenly you have one injected into your life.
Right.
But
By
I also
accident.
said that, you know, when we stop thinking like I'd have to get up in the middle of the night and take Chica to go potty, and then she was very girly, so she would shut the door and she'd say, "Privacy, please," and
I love that about
I'd
you.
have to stay outside the door and wonder what she was doing there, you know. And sometimes
Love that about you.
went normal, and sometimes she'd like be yawning and going, "Chica, you still okay?" She'd go, "I'm pooping," you know, whatever. So okay, and then she would come back out, and I'd take her back to bed and put her in and kiss her, and then get back into my bed. It'd be 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and my wife Janine would say, "Is she okay?" And I'd say, "She's okay," and then you try to go back to sleep. And I wrote that, you know, the most precious thing you can give to someone is your time, because you can't get it back. There's no re-earning it. You know, there's no, "I'll go get some more time from the bank." But when you give it to someone without thinking about getting it back, then you've given it in love. And that's what Chica taught us. That not only did we give her all that time, we never thought twice about the time that we were giving her. We just wanted more of it.
Yeah.
You know? And so she taught us how to really give your time from your heart.
Yeah, yeah. So the book is Finding Chica, Mitch Albom's latest. A little girl, an earthquake, and the making of a family. Now, darn it, it doesn't end like I wish it would have.
Uh-huh.
And you know what you said, we wanted more. The only thing that we wanted back was more time. Now, I had the honor, I don't know if you know, but I had the honor of being one of the people who was on the prayer team for Chica.
Thank you.
And it was an honor and a blessing. And, you know, right at the end, I got this feeling like God wants to do a miracle. Like, I got this feeling like a Lazarus moment might happen, you know? And I even told my friend who had me on the prayer chain, you know, our mutual friend. And I told her, I think God wants to raise this girl, and I'm going to keep on believing that she's going to. And I'm looking at the end here, and this end is remarkable. She stays alive as she breathes, like.
Yeah, it was the next to well, they thought it was her last day.
But you said as long as she's fighting, we're fighting.
Right.
And what was the word that the doctor used? Nevertheless.
Yeah.
And isn't that a stooping down word?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I saw a medical report one time. I was reading it that they gave on her, and they listed all these things that were wrong with her. And then they wrote, nevertheless, the parents, they're referring to us.
Yes.
The parents still want to continue treatment. And I was like, well, what do you mean, nevertheless? You know, like, what should we just say? Yeah, well, given all that, let's just give up.
Yeah.
So that nevertheless word became kind of an anthem for us, because nevertheless, Chica wasn't supposed to be with us. Nevertheless, she was. Chica didn't look like us or talk like us. Nevertheless, she was our little girl. You know, Chica wasn't supposed to live beyond 4 months, but here she was nearly 2 years. So nevertheless, she's still here.
Right.
And the last time that came into play was the morning that they thought that she was going to pass on. And they woke me up. I was sleeping on the floor, and the bedroom was very dark. It was probably 5 in the morning, and they said, we think it's time. And I got into bed with Chica, and so did my wife, and we were listening carefully to her, and we heard her, you know, her breathing was very soft, but I put my head on her chest, and I heard like almost an effort.
Type
rattle, but an effort to sort of fight against it. And I said, I think she's fighting to breathe. And they said, no, this is the hospice people were there. No, those are just the sounds a child makes at the end. I remember that, distinctly. And, again, I looked at them like I looked at that doctor the first time. And I said, all due respect, in my mind, I didn't say this out loud, all due respect, you don't know this girl.
Right on.
And I heard that. I said, she's fighting. And once again, I said, if she fights, we're fighting. That's the deal we made. And so I lifted her up, and I began to pound on her back, which is what they taught us with these rubber couplers. And I kept saying, come on, Chica, come on, Chica. If you want to be here, then be here. And there was a suction thing that you had to put down her throat, and I did that too. And within 5 minutes, her heart rate and her respiration rate was all back in the safety zone. And those people looked at us with their mouths open, and they said, we've never seen that happen with a child before. And I said in my mind,
Write it down, will you?
Nevertheless.
There it is.
You know,
Come on.
Nevertheless,
No.
she did. And that day was so special because we called everybody she knew, everybody we knew, everybody she had ever befriended, and said, look, if you want to say goodbye, come now. And they all did. And she had like a parade. And everybody got a chance to sit with her and love her and kiss her and talk to her, whatever. And then the next day, on a beautiful day, not a dark, stormy day like the previous one was, a beautiful sunny afternoon, she finally left us to be with God.
Let's talk about the worship song that she sang and the song that was sung at her funeral when you took her body back to Haiti and laid her to rest in a grave all her own.
So all of our kids and the mission participate in devotion every night before they go to bed. It's the last thing they do before they go to bed. And it's usually about 30 or 40 minutes of just prayer. It's really beautiful because it's all loud and enthusiastic, thankful, joyous, drum pounding.
Don't you
prayer,
think church would be busier if that's how we did?
Oh, for sure.
We should do that. Let's just start.
And our kids
I already started. I'll spill the beans.
Okay. Our kids love doing devotion. And one of the songs that they sing, many of them are upbeat, some are slower. One of the songs that they sing and they love is I'm no longer a slave to fear, I am a child of God. That's that song. I think it's called No Longer a Slave.
It is.
By Bethel. And they sing that all the time. And one night, a few months before Chica passed away, we heard her singing this by herself in the bedroom. And she kept singing it. And we said, So Janine got a camera, an iPhone, and she went into the bedroom to try to film her. Now, normally, if you walk in on a kid who is singing and you have a camera, they're going to stop, right? That's the first thing they're going to do is stop. No, I don't want to. Not only did she not stop, she sang that song for 8 minutes. Wow. 8 straight minutes without ever really making eye contact with Janine, because she was already, I think, in communion with God. And she wasn't singing it to us. She was singing it to him.
Amen.
And she sang it for 8 minutes, and then she closed her eyes and went to sleep. And when Janine came out, and I asked her about it, she said, I've never seen anything like that. She was someplace else. And that we ended up using that line, I am a child of God, on her grave in Creole and in English. And that's a song that the kids sing for her all the time, along with a secular song called Love. L is for the way you look at me.
Oh, yes.
They sing that all the time because she loved that song. And they sing it every night, without fail, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. It's the last song that they sing after devotion. And at the very end, when they finish, they say 1, 2, 3, and they look up and they say, good night, Chica. And that's how they end their prayer session.
And there she is in the cloud of witnesses, just looking down, smiling, and waiting for that day when you and your bride, and she's already back with her sweet mama.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't mourn as those who have no hope. Yeah, and speaking of hope, we'll go ahead and close with this. I love how you share, and by the way, the book, brand new from Mitch Albom, Finding Chica, all the proceeds of this book go to the orphanage that we've been sharing about, where sweet Chica came from. So I hope you get this book for Christmas. Speaking of hope, here's what you write. Hope is critical. It's almost mandatory to a soldier in troubled times. Conversely, there is no affliction like hopelessness. I believe it's worse than anything that strikes the flesh. Hopelessness can be contagious, but hope can be too. And there's no medicine to match it. Chica's believing in us helped us believe in ourselves. And then this line from Proverbs that you share.
Right. Surely there's a future and hope will not be cut off. That's from Proverbs. And Chica always had hope. And, right to she never knew that she was, or acted like she was in a battle for her life. She was just wanting to be a kid one more day. And we gave her the gift of being a kid for as long as we could before God decided that, he wanted another kid up to running around up in the heavenly playground. And, you mentioned before about, wanting a different outcome. And I remember Chica, she taught us so many things, and the book is full of all these lessons that Chica taught us. But one that stands out to me was, we're blessed, and I've done well in my life, and we have a nice house here in Michigan. And Chica got to live in that nice house. But we went to Germany for this immunology treatment for her blood. It's in Cologne, Germany. We had to get a place near the clinic to live in. And all they had was a small little flat. And so this place had a tiny little kitchen, a tiny bathroom, and one bedroom. And Chica was never happier than when she was there.
Wow.
Because she had us all to herself.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Because she said in the book, she said, "Do you see me?" That was a regular theme with her.
Yeah.
Do you see me?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because we walk by faith and not by sight. And she knew that she was critical. So it's an interesting question for a little girl so good at going between here and there.
Yeah.
But when she said, "Do you see me?" Do you remember where she said she sees you, where your fairy door is? She said it was in Germany.
Yeah, well, that's because she was so happy there. And I remember one night we had to all sleep in the same bed. There was only one bed in this place. So, and she loved that.
I was
she
gonna
could just
say.
bounce back and forth between me and of course, for us, she kicked, like, because she was one of those kids who moves at night, so I get a foot in the face. But that, one of those nights, she said, we were on both sides, and she said, "Mr. Mitch, Miss Janine, Mr. Mitch, Miss Janine." We said, "What?" "Kiss. Kiss, 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 kiss."
Oh.
So we kind of tented over her, and we kissed, and she was underneath, and she clapped her hands, and she said, "Now you can live happily ever after."
Well, it's official then.
Yeah. Well, but of course, if only that had been so, then, she would still be with us. But I just remember, thinking the wonder that she had and the way that she brought us together over top of her,
Yes.
was symbolic of the way that she brought us together with her, that we became this family. And I learned such a great lesson about family and the blessing of being a family because, there are many ways to make a family. There's a traditional way, you're in your 20s, early 30s, you have your kids naturally. Okay, that's great. But there's also adoption, fostering, taking in somebody from the outside, an orphanage, a 5-year-old who comes to live with you and suddenly turns you into parents and grandparents' bodies.
Yes.
There's a million ways to make families. Kids don't have to look like you. They don't have to come from you. They can be from anywhere in the world. But there's no wrong way to make a family, And no matter how a family comes together and no matter how it comes apart, I believe you can't lose a child. You can't lose a child. Because
Agreed.
that would mean like you never had them.
No,
you
she's
can't
still
lose
here.
a child.
We take bodies off. We
Right.
live in them.
And we didn't lose a child. We were given a child.
Yeah.
And for that we are eternally grateful. For whatever, a minute, a day, a week, or 2 years, we could never say thank you and be grateful enough to God for the experience of being given a child. And that's what Finding Chica is about.
What a good dad. What a good dad, Mitch Albom, you turned out to be. How awesome is that?
I don't know.
So guys, the book is Finding Chica. It's available everywhere. The work continues.
Yeah.
Chica's little brother, I believe, is now at the orphanage along with the others.
That's how you really know, okay, God had a hand in all this, because she really had almost never seen her brother, and her older sister they'd both been taken away the day that her mother died. Every one of the kids was taken and taken someplace else.
Right.
At her funeral, surprising to us, her little brother, who was now 3, came with the people who were taking care of him, and her older sister, who was 9, came with the people who were taking care of her. And after the funeral, we came back to the orphanage. And the man who was taking care of Moise, her brother, the uncle, he looked around our place and he saw every kid has their own bed. Every kid gets 3 meals a day. There are nannies. There's a beautiful school. There's great places to play. They sing. They have a music education. They're all going to go to university.
Yeah.
He saw this and he came to me and he said, "Look, we only took this little boy because his mother died and there was nobody else to take him, but we don't really have any money and we've got kids of our own and this is a really nice place. Would you consider taking him? Well, of course he looks just like Chica. So I looked at him and I kind of opened my arms. I said, boys, venim, which means come here, come to me. And he just jumped on
Aww.
And I was thinking he's pretty much in already.
Yeah.
You know, so he now lives with us.
So this is yes.
Yeah, and then her older sister, she went home that day with the people who were taking care of her, were not related to her. But we said to her, you can come back anytime you want to visit here. A couple weeks later, she came back and she spent the night. And that afternoon, the next afternoon, when the people were scheduled to come get her at 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock, she's 9 years old. At 4 o'clock, she went to the security guard and she said, if those people ask about me, tell them I'm not here.
Oh no! Oh boy!
So I think she wanted to stay, and shortly after that, we took her in too. So
Wow.
Chica's
So they're
little brother and her
reunited.
sister are now living with us.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
You know what? And every dollar from this book going right to the orphanage in Haiti, setting the captives free, no longer slaves. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mitch Albom.
My pleasure.
God bless you.
Thank you for the conversation.